arrest.
You know what he told everybody in court? They need to be held accountable for their actions. You need to be. Do you remember me?
That was Sandy Fonzo lashing out after the trial for Kids for Cash co-conspirator Mark Chivarella, who was serving a 28-year prison sentence after being found guilty by a jury. Fonzo's son killed himself. She says he was sent away as part of the scheme for no good reason, and that led to his suicide years later.
Today, a special on Kids for Cash. The shocking story of how thousands of children in Pennsylvania were jailed by two corrupt judges who received kickbacks from the builders and owners of private prison facilities.
I was known for being the jokester.
Eddie, he was always a fireball.
We were talking about how funny it would be if we made a fake MySpace page about my vice principal.
I was trying to stay out of trouble. That's when everything started.
Whatever sins you have committed, you can't go back and undo it.
Chivarella was a no-nonsense, zero-tolerance judge. He always jailed kids.
You are going to experience prison. I'll be glad to put you there.
The way Chivarella ran the courtroom, you could have had F. Lee Bailey there, and the kids would have gone away.
There's a mechanism that takes over that keeps kids in that system.
No one listened because we were kids.
There was never any instance of guilt or innocence. They were locking him up.
A really high number of kids appearing without counsel.
We have no rights. He's in their custody now.
It is unbelievable. We're talking about children.
I wanted them to be scared out of their minds. I don't understand how that was a bad thing.
Former Luzerne County judge faces charges tonight
In a scandal known as Kids for Cash.
$2.6 million
In return for sentencing kids to juvenile detention.
I never sent a kid away for a penny.
I'm not this mad judge who was just putting them in shackles, throwing kids away.
He went there as a free-spirited kid. He came out a hardened man, I'd say.
Here I was saying we can trust that judge to be fair, and that's not what happened. I was scared every day.
It was over. We ended up fighting. They took me to the office with the police officer, called my father, told him to come get his crazy daughter out of their school. She's starting trouble.
Your kid was locked up for slapping a girl. It shouldn't have never went any farther than the local magistrate if the school wasn't satisfied with suspending her for 3 days. Not out to a juvenile judge. And then to find out it was all from greed.
I was only 14. All those years I missed.
This is not a cash for kids case.
This is not bad! You ruined my life!
I still wake up from nightmares.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel here. It's Lavender here, and today I am back with another true crime case. Today I am doing the Cash for Kids scandal true crime case. And let's get started into this video. So yeah, this true crime story has been featured in a number of media and TV. It has been featured, the scandal has been featured in Capitalism, a love story, and the 2009 documentary by Michael Moore, a full-length documentary covering this case and true crime scandal. Entitled Kids for Cash was released in February 2014 and has been favorably reviewed. In April 2014, CNBC's crime documentary called American Greed reported on this case. The scandal has also led to several portrayals in fictional works, such as in Law and Order, Special Victims Unit episodes and more episodes. Also, it was lastly featured in 2015 crime fiction novelist Ace Atkins using the nom de plume of the late Robert B. Parker, wrote Kickback, which borrows heavily from this true crime case, transferring it into a Boston suburb instead of an episode of Billions called Quality of Life. It has a suburb plot inspired by the scandal in which New York City judge sentences youth harshly for financial gain. The novel Corrupted by Lisa Scottsdale was another one. Includes the scandal portraying the characters in the book as victims of the scandal. The Kids for Cash scandal centered on judicial kickbacks to two corrupt judges at the County Court of Common Pleas in Wickets-Barrow, Pennsylvania. In 2008, judges Michael Conahan and Mark Calavera were convicted of accepting money in return for imposing harsh sentences on juveniles to increase occupancy at a for-profit, private prison Detention Center. Pennsylvania's Judicial Law Board received 4 complaints about the whole situation between 2004 and 2008, but later it admitted it failed to investigate any of the follow-ups or any of that. They never investigated it at all, nor had it sought documentation regarding the cases involved. The FBI was tipped off about the corruption, about Conahan, and nepotism in the county courts in 2006, an additional investigation into improper sentencing in Windsor County began in early 2007 as a result of requests for assistance from civil use received by the Philadelphia-based Juvenile Law Center. Attorneys from the center determined that several hundred cases were tried without the defendants receiving proper counsel or knowing their rights. In April 2008, the center petitioned the Pennsylvania Supreme Court seeking relief for alleged violation of the youth's civil rights. The application of relief was later denied, then reconsidered in January 2009 when corruption charges against both the judges surfaced. The FBI and IRS also investigated Conahan and the other judge. Although the exact dates or the scope of these federal investigations were not made public, part of the investigation was revealed to have occurred during disciplinary hearings over the conduct of another former county judge, Ann H. Luca. Luca was brought before the Judicial Court Board in November 2006 to answer charges of using court workers to do her personal bidding, openly displaying a personal bias against some of the attorneys arguing before her, and publicly berating staff to cause mental distress. The board ruled against Luca in November 2008, and she was removed from the bench. During the course of the hearings, Luca charged that Conahan was behind a conspiracy to have her removed. She aided the federal investigation into the Kids for Cash scheme prior to the Conduct Board's ruling, and a stay order was issued in March 2009 by the Pennsylvania Supreme Court in light of the ongoing investigations against the judges, halting Lakota's removal and the special election that was to be held to replace her. During the Luca hearing, Conahan testified that there was no social relationships amongst the county judges. However, Judge Michael Tooley was later convicted of case fixing, as well as another judge had each stayed at a Florida condo jointly owned by Conahan and Convalia. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court decided to uphold Lakota's removal from the bench in January 2011, finding she had received a fair trial regardless of Conahan's testimony. It also ordered the expungements of the records of 2,401 of those juveniles who were affected. The U.S. Attorney charged that in 2002, Conahan, who at the time was president judge of the court, used his authority to remove funding for the county-operated facility. The judges were allegedly to have received millions of dollars in payments for the compilation of binding agreements between the court and the private facilities, co-owned by the attorney Robert Powell to use their services to the subsequent closing of the county facility. The methods used to conceal the payments involved several parties and transactions, which resulted in allegations of tax evasion against the two judges. Calavera and Conahan were also charged with ordering juveniles to be sent to these facilities in which the judges had a financial interest to gain because they were gaining money, even when juvenile probation officers did not recommend placement according to the statement. So on to the victims and their families of the situation, what they had to say. Sandy Forzo's son was 17 and an all-star wrestler with a chance at a Clark scholarship when he landed in Cashovilla's courtroom on a minor drug paraphernalia charge because he had marijuana. Through the teen, Edward Kinslowski had no prior criminal record. He spent months in the private lockups and a wilderness camp and missed his senior year of high school. Kaczynski emerged an angry, bitter, and depressed young man. He committed suicide June at the age of 23. And this is what his mother had to say, Sandy. He was just never the same after that. He couldn't recover. He wanted to go on with his life, but he was just so hurt. He was so physically affected deeply and had post-traumatic stress disorder more than anyone knew. This is very frustrating to me and brings out all the anxiety and the continued knowing that the system is broke and does not work. She later said after one of the judges was released later on in, I think, 2020 for the COVID-19 virus, Charlie Bala Savage, one of the kids for cash use, who's one of the victims of capitalism in this case, died at age 28 in 2019. He was depicted in the Kids for Cash documentary he died due to drug overdose. He was 15 when he was arrested for possession of a stolen motorbike. Despite protests, and his parents said that they had purchased it for him and they did not know prior that it was stolen and that was sold to them. I think it's wrong that I think that he got special treatment and none of the children got special treatment. She's talking at the judge, said Judy Laura Fisher, whose niece was the victim of the Kids for Cash scheme. Fisher's niece was sent to a private juvenile detention center in the Kids for Cash scandal for a very minor offense. She was 13 at the time. She is now 30. She doesn't believe he should be out or get out. She didn't get a chance to come out. She was incarcerated. She was scared, and she was suicidal after the first 2 years in the prison. The criminal verdicts and sentences. So the criminal verdicts and sentences, Robert Powell, an attorney and co-owner of the 2 juvenile facilities at the heart of the scandal, pleaded guilty on July 1st, 2009 to failing to report a felony and being accessory to tax evasion conspiracy in connection with $770,000 in kickbacks he paid to Calvera and Conahan in exchange for facilitating the development of his juvenile detention centers. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court temporarily suspended Powell's law license on September 1st, citing his criminal conviction. Calvera deposed thousands of children to extended stays in youth centers for offenses as trivial as mocking an assistant principal on MySpace or trespassing into a vacant building. After a judge rejected an initial plea agreement in 2009, a federal grand jury returned a 48-count indictment in 2010. Conahan pleaded guilty to a count of racketeering conspiracy and was sentenced to 17.5 years in federal prison. Calvera opted to go to trial the following year. He was convicted on 12 of the 39 counts and sentenced to 28 years in prison. In the wake of the scandal, the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania overturned hundreds of adjunctions of delinquency in Lisner County. The Juvenile Law Center filed a class action lawsuit against the judges and numerous other staff and parties, and the Pennsylvania State Legislature created a commission to investigate juvenile justice problems in the country. And updates as of January 2020 and January 2021 on this case. Michael Conahan, 68, the other judge in the scandal, was sentenced to more than 17 years in prison. He was later released to home confinement last year with 6 years left of his sentence because of the coronavirus concerns. Prison officials had released Conahan in part because he had medical conditions that put him at a higher risk for complications if he contracted the disease. Mark Calvera, a former Lancaster County juvenile court judge, had requested the same exact thing, compassionate release from a federal lockup in Kentucky. The 7-year-old cited his age, his underlying medical conditions that put him at a heightened risk of serious illness from COVID-19 and the virus outbreaks that shut the prison, but I'm pretty sure he was denied parole or whatever, denied this. He's still in prison, I think. So if you guys like this video, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Bye guys, next video.